if you're the smartest person in a room, you're in the wrong room. You want to be in a room that challenges you to think at a whole nother level. Not too long ago, I was in a room that I don't know how I got in the room, and everybody was talking over my head, but I didn't run out of the room. I said, I need to sit here, I need to absorb, I need to ask questions, I need to write down, and I need to think. And what I recognized, that environment of being around bigger thinkers began to challenge me out of the status quo where I found myself in at that particular moment. So everyone listening to us, what are the relationships? What are the environments? And then thirdly, what are the words that you are saying that move you forward or cause you to stay where you are? Language is the software of the mind. So how do I begin to upgrade my verbal software and begin to speak where I'm going instead of saying where I'm currently residing?
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Hey fam! So question, what do you do that makes you unique and memorable? Like, what is your spark? And I ask this question because today we're going to talk about how to find your spark and unleash your brilliance. I think it's so important that we have this conversation as business leaders because when you find your spark, you find your joy. And when you find your joy, you find your voice. And when you find your voice, you find your freedom. So all this work that you do to discover these things are a form of self-care and taking care of yourself. When you take care of yourself, you become alive and you become the best version of yourself. And this is what's going to allow you to show up and fully serve others. Now, honestly, I did not come up with that. Just keeping it real. All the credit goes to today's guest, Simon Bailey, a renowned advisor, author, and keynote speaker. He made it all make sense during our conversation. And the beautiful thing about the work that Simon is doing is that he has committed to a life of purpose that sparks individuals and organizations to lead companies, countries, and communities differently. He's also a certified Caritas coach focused on helping others lead with heart-centered intelligence. Love it. So during our conversation, you're going to learn how to find your spark. If you don't know what it is, it's okay because we're going to walk through that today. We're also going to talk about why you should be taking your meds every day. Not actual meds, but Simon's going to explain that. And how to get your clients to become your unofficial marketing department. Now listen to me. You are definitely going to want to take some notes on this one because it is action-packed. So let's go ahead and dive in. Simon, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. Great to have you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. So good to be with you.
Yes. So I always like to start out the same way, kind of, if you could share with my audience a little bit about who you are, what's it that you do in your business, and how did you get here?
Oh my goodness. Well, today my purpose is to run a content distribution business where we basically hug people with our words every single day. I do that through keynote speaking, online courses, and I've written 10 books, and book number 11 is coming out in a few months. So we wake up every single day. We love what we do, and we have a great team that works with us.
I love that. Hugging people with our words.
That's
I
right.
like that. Oh, that makes me feel happy. Okay. I'm excited. And it is so on theme with our conversation today. How do you find your spark and unleash your brilliance? So I'm so excited to dive in. But from in like the basic standpoint, I think a lot of times we hear this word like spark. So What does it mean to have a spark?
When you have a spark, you are in flow, you are in doing what makes you come alive, and you are forever in service to others. And when you are in service to others, doing what makes you come alive, what people begin to sense that you are not showing up for a transaction, but you're showing up to build a relationship with them. And as you build a relationship with them by offering your product, your service, whatever you are bringing to the marketplace, because of how you serve them, it sparks them. and they become the unofficial marketing department for whatever you are offering. So this spark really is looking at what is it that I do that is unique, that is different, that is memorable. Because let me say to you this way. When you find your spark, you find your joy. When you find your joy, you find your voice. And when you find your voice, you find your freedom. So until you find your voice in whatever you've been called to do, you'll never really tap into freedom. But once you do, that's the spark.
Mm, so good. And, you kind of touched on it. And I think a lot of people may think, okay, I don't know what that thing is. But I think before we dive into actually finding that, because we're going to talk about that, you touched on the fact that it matters for your business, but really honing in on why uncovering this is important for entrepreneurs and the effects of not focusing on finding your superpower can have on your business.
Yeah, the reason it's so important right now, all of the research says that between now and 2025, there will be hundreds of millions of jobs eliminated because of artificial intelligence, automation, autonomous cars. And so, what individuals are being invited to do right now is saying, what is my creative spark? What is the thing that I would do that allows me to be relevant in the marketplace no matter what is happening? So you have decided that you're not going to let an algorithm displace you, or if, in other words, that algorithm is going to disrupt how you've been doing what you've been doing so that you can go in a fresh direction.
Mm. Simon, I'm so glad you said that because I was just reading this article about that on Medium about AI replacing certain businesses. And the way that your business is going to stand out is that it cannot replace the emotional connection that people have with you, the authenticity. So I'm
Yes,
so glad that you said that because it's so true.
yes, absolutely.
That human. Okay. So, Simon, your work focuses on sparking individuals and organizations to lead countries, companies, and communities differently. So, how, so, and why?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, we spark individuals to lead themselves first. So we
Mm,
have to start with, how am I doing as a whole human being, as a whole person? Are you taking your meds? Meds, meditate, exercise, diet, and sleep. That's what that acronym stands for. Then once I take care of myself, I then have to look at my community at large and say, how am I helping my neighbor next door? How am I extending myself to ensure that they are thriving, they are flourishing? And then once I understand the impact that I'm having locally, how do I begin to look broadly, perhaps at my state, my country, my world, to say, how do I make a bigger difference in the world by understanding it's not so much what we get, but it's about what we give every single day.
mm. On fire. You are on fire, Simon. I'm going to start asking people, are you taking your meds? And if you did not listen to the Black to Business podcast, I will know. Because are you taking your meds? And one of the things I also saw is that you recently became a certified Caritas coach.
Yes,
Um,
I had Caritas coach. Yes.
Caritas. I messed that up.
Hmm. That's
You got
okay.
to tell me what this means and how it has shaped your approach in coaching others.
Caritas coaching, first of all, is some of the research work of Dr. Jean Watson, who is a scholar at the University of Colorado at Boulder. 40
Mm-hmm.
years of her research has been around what is called caring science. Caring science is looking at self so that you can serve others. So, in other words, how do I show up, number one, to care about you and where you are with a simple question: how are you doing? Because
Mm.
I've taken the time to work on me, so I'm going to extend myself to say, how are you doing? The second thing is coming from a place of gratitude. So, how am I grateful every single day? No matter what's going on, I'm just going to pause and be thankful. I'm going to call it out. How do I then, in the spirit of Caritas and caring science, how do I then begin to forgive? Whatever happened the day prior, month prior, year prior, how do I forgive those things and don't suppress those things within me because it impacts my mental health long term? And then
Mm-hmm.
number four, how do I surrender? So there are news headlines flying around, and so many times those things cause our brilliance to be blocked because what is being said literally causes us to be stuck in neutral and not move forward into the future. So, caring science is really to step back and say, when I take time to care about myself, then I can care for others. But you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot be what you've not become. And you cannot do for others what you haven't done for yourself. So, if you fly, they say put the oxygen mask on
Mm-hmm.
yourself first. So that's what caring science is. How do I put the oxygen mask on myself so that I can help everyone else around me?
So good and beautiful. And would you say this is what it means to lead with heart-centered intelligence, or would that be something different?
No, it's exactly heart centered intelligence.
Heart-centered intelligence. I saw that and I loved it. Okay. So when it comes to finding, we know the importance of having that spark. For some people, they're like, okay, I don't know what my superpower is. I don't know what my spark is. Like, what would you say would be some of the steps that people can take to uncover their spark and their superpower?
Oh, I love this question. So take out a blank sheet of paper and write down when you are in the zone, doing what you love. What's the activity? What are you saying? What's the environment that you're in? Number one. Number two, who are three people that know you really well? And whenever you are around them, they compliment something to you that's just second nature. You don't think about it, but it just comes natural to you. So, for example, when I was in high school, I went
Mm-hmm.
out for the football team, got cut, went out for basketball team, got cut. But friends began to share with me that, hey, you're really good on your feet. You can think on your feet really quickly. You have a platinum tongue. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's my thing. And when I zeroed in on that, it's because people were giving me feedback that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know. And the old saying is you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. Okay. Then the third thing to really tap into your spark, what would you do if no one paid you to do it? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What is that thing that when you do it, you're just like, boom, that's it?
Mm-hmm. I love that. Oh, and for some people, they're like, I had the spark, but life, imposter. I don't know if I'm worthy. I'm good enough to be successful. That self-doubt or those things that are really beyond their control happen. So what would you say to someone that's trying to find a way to reignite that spark?
Number one, remember it's not who you are that holds you back from sparking your brilliance, it's who you think you're not that holds you back. Number two, rewrite your story. That means if you need to begin to write down the story of where you're going, not just where you are, you have literally created a new script to go into the movie of your mind and begin to pre play pictures of a coming attraction based on what you've written down. And then number three, identify someone who may be doing what you would like to do. Study them, find out what has made them successful. What were
Mm-hmm.
their failures or mistakes? Because success leaves clues. Cut down your learning curve. And then tomorrow morning, get up and say, what am I going to do to put one foot in front of the other? When I got ready to leave Disney years ago to do the work that I'm doing now, before I
Mm-hmm.
left Disney, I created an exit strategy. And that exit strategy required me getting up 1 to 2 hours earlier each day just to work on my business, not and quit my 9 to 5 job. But what it did, it built up the confidence within me that when it was time for me 18 to 22 months later to take that leap, I had already built the muscle within my mind that, oh, we are doing this because I
Mm-hmm.
sold myself on myself. So sell yourself on yourself through your storytelling.
Take a moment for that. That was so good. Yes. And let's talk about unleashing this brilliance. Now, would you say the brilliance and the spark is the same thing? Because I want to talk about what that means and looks like.
Yeah. So the spark is that initial flicker of the flame. The
Mm-hmm.
brilliance is the fire that literally stirs you up. So when you spark your brilliance, you are sparking the fire within to live from the inside out. And anybody that steps into your quantum field, your energy will rub
Mm-hmm.
off on them because you have owned it within yourself to say, I am sparking my brilliance.
Mm. Yes. And what do you think separates like brilliant entrepreneurs from just good entrepreneurs?
Average entrepreneurs will do just enough. Brilliant entrepreneurs will go the extra step. Point in case, you go to a restaurant and you ask for the bill. That person could bring over your bill. That's an average experience. But a person who creates that brilliant moment, they will bring the bill back on a platter with two mints on the platter, along with a smiley face on your bill. That's
Mm-hmm.
going the extra step. So they're always looking for ways to up the ante.
And one of the things you also touched on and you believe is that everyone has brilliance within them, but it's often buried by society's rigid rules on how we are allowed to use our talents and abilities. But it's only when we learn to shift our way of thinking that we can find that spark. So how can one identify where they might be dimming their brilliance?
So, number one, who are the relationships in your life that allow you to brilliantly shine? When you are around those relationships, remember, people are like elevators. They take you up, they take you down. And when you evaluate your relationships, evaluate them through this particular premise. Who are the people that add, subtract, multiply, and divide? Relationships are everything. Whoever has your ear has your life. That's number one. Number two, what is the environment that I find myself in? Is this environment causing me to read more books, take more courses? Is it elevating how I do what I do? If you are if you're the smartest person in a room, you're in the wrong room. You want to be in a room that challenges you to think at a whole nother level. Not too long ago, I was in a room that I don't know how I got in the room, and everybody was talking over my head, but I didn't run out of the room. I said, I need to sit here. I need to absorb. I need to ask questions. I need to write down and I need to think. And what I recognized, that environment of being around bigger thinkers began to challenge me out of the status quo where I found myself in at that particular moment. So everyone listening to us, what are the relationships? What are the environments? And then thirdly, what are the words that you are saying that move you forward or cause you to stay where you are? Language is the software of the mind. So how do I begin to upgrade my verbal software and begin to speak where I'm going instead of saying where I'm currently residing?
Mm-hmm. So someone is listening and they're like, I'm ready to make this shift. I'm ready to step into that. That will require a different version of me. People will look at me differently. Like, who is this new person? So how would you say to someone, how do they begin to make that shift to brilliance and really touching on the role that that mindset and that mind switch is going to play into that?
Every day, make it a daily habit. Make an appointment with yourself as you start the day to say, here is how today is going to unfold. So number one, it's your habit in the morning. Number two, throughout the day, check in with yourself to say, how am I doing based on what I said I was going to do today? Am I moving closer to it? And if so, what are some of the proof points? Measure what you intend to manage. So and then number three, at the end of the day, write down in your journal, what did I accomplish today? How did I grow today? How did I move closer to what my intention was at the beginning of the day? So each day you create a progress report for yourself where you hold yourself accountable and to say, I missed it, great. If you could do better tomorrow, what's that one thing that you're going to do better? And now you begin, if you do this over a 30-day period, what you'll discover is the person that you were at the beginning of the 30 days is not the
Mm-hmm.
same person because you have been holding your feet to the fire and you have been holding yourself accountable to achieving what you really want.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Simon. So you've given us all the ways to find our spark, to unleash our brilliance. Now it's time to talk about the impact that all of this work that we've done on ourselves is going to have on our business. So How would you advise one to begin to kind of weave this into their business to set themselves up for that visibility and success?
First thing we have to start with is the vision. A friend of mine in Australia says if it's foggy in your head, it's foggy outside of you. So, what's that vision? Secondly, what's the mission? What's the mission that's going to move you closer to that vision? The mission is the specific things that you're going to do every single day to make it happen. Number three, what are your core values? Core values allows you to realize that not all money is good money. Core values. So, for instance, in our business, our core values is based on a principle called ICE. ICE is an acronym that stands for integrity, creativity, and excellence. Every decision that we need to make in business, we run it through our core values. We say, does this align with our mission? And does it allow us to fulfill our vision? Because ultimately, you will have somebody that will show up with a great idea. Hey, let's go do this. Let's do that. It doesn't align with your core values, doesn't align with your mission. So what you're doing is you're learning how to say no to protect your yes. So if you're going to move closer to that thing that you really, really want, step back, vision, mission, core values. Then once you have the core values, what's my strategy to absolutely ensure that this objectives that I'm setting out to do, it can happen? Because your strategy is what you intend to do to make that vision and mission operational and happening every single day.
Mm-hmm. Love that. And any tips that you would say for anyone to get clarity on their next right mini leap they need to take to make sure that their businesses may be more profitable and unstoppable?
What do I know about the industry? If you read one book a month in the next 10 years in your core industry, in 10 years, you would have read 120 books that would put you in the top 1% of your industry. So, where's the industry going? How do you, first of all, have your finger on the pulse of where it is? Number one. Number two, who are the leaders in that industry? What are they doing? And what will you do differently? When everyone is zigging, how do you zag? Number three, what is it that customers need that they're not currently getting? What's the gap or the hole or the opportunity in the market? Because if you come into the market offering what everybody else is offering, one of you is not needed. So you have to begin to say, what is my point of differentiation? That little twist that others may not see that you're like, wow. So point in case is Apple, when they came out with the iPhone was not the first phone on the market. What differentiated the iPhone were the apps in the phone. And as you know, Apple requires anybody on their platform to give them a 30% cut. They keep the 70% just to be on their platform. So the differentiation was the applications in the phone. What are your apps? So when you're thinking about your idea, what's your apps that you can bring to the marketplace? What's your apple? How do you take a bite at the apple that others perhaps have not taken in time past?
Now, Simon, I'm going to move into the work that you are doing. But before I do this, I have to tell you that I have never had a Black to Business podcast this short, where I get through all of the questions in so many 1, 2, 3 steps in 20 minutes. You are amazing. Like you are amazing. It's like I've learned so much, and all of our episodes are very valuable. But this has been a great, amazing interview. I will say that. So I got to tell you that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's talk about some of the work that you are doing. So in addition, like you mentioned, you've written 10 books and you have another one coming out. So you've already written now, Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life, a guide for men. Like, what inspired you to write this book, and what do you want your reader to take away from this book?
I wrote the book as a guide for men not to make the mistakes that I made in my life. My daughter came into my home office one day and she said, "Hey, Daddy." I said, "Hey, baby girl." And I sensed she wanted to talk, but I was emotionally unavailable. And I went out of town, came back out of town, said, "Madison, you wanted to talk to me." And she said, "Daddy, it's okay." I said, "No, no, it's not okay, because if I don't change my behavior, you're going to marry a joker just like me." And her mom said to me, after 25 years of being married, she said, "You give everybody the best of you, but you give us the rest of you, and I don't want the leftovers anymore." So what I recognized after I went to therapy, my counselor and therapist, Anita, said, whatever you don't deal with will eventually deal with you. And what I recognized is that I had built a house but lost a home. I was chasing money but had no meaning. And I was pursuing power, but had no purpose. So I wrote the book, the Ignite the Power of Women in Your Life, a guide for men. Simply, number one, men, if you get it right with the women in your life, there is nothing that you won't be able to accomplish in life. Number two, when you really begin to understand a woman, you will not only unlock your potential and her potential, but you will celebrate her rather than tolerate her in understanding that a woman can help you become a better human being. Because, yes, it is true, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And then, number three,
Mm-hmm.
we are moving. This is the decade of the age of the woman. And any business that is going to be worth its salt has to do right by women. So it's the invitation for men to say, women don't tell you what you need to know. Women will tell you what you can handle. And when you lean into understanding what she is saying, it unlocks the brilliance within you, and you're ignited instead of her being ignited because you understand that I need a great woman by my side, sometimes in front of me, pulling me forward, and not being
Mm-hmm.
threatened by that, but just understanding that together we become better.
Mm. So powerful. Listen, people are going to get this book. They're like, okay, I need this book. And then secondly, they're like, I need the name of Simon's therapist. Because that was that is all of it.
Yes,
So beautiful.
AnitasTheBomb.com. I've referred so many Anita's
Shout
pretty awesome.
out. Shout out to Anita. We love to see it. And other things that you're doing over at Simon T. Bailey International, like how are you helping entrepreneurs and small business owners unleash their brilliance and lead differently? So if you could just talk about some of your offerings and your process for someone who would want to work with you.
So, one of the things that I would offer to business folks is Be the Spark, 5 Platinum Service Principles for Creating Customers for Life. That particular book is based on everything I've learned in the last 35 years when it comes to creating what I call customer love. So it
Mm-hmm.
takes the best of what I learned at Disney. I did some work for the Ritz-Carlton Learning Institute, and now I distill it down into 5 principles in your business to say this is how you connect with customers so that they become your unofficial marketing department. So that's one particular course. The other course that we have is Brilliant Presenter. Brilliant Presenter is really understanding that speaking is the new marketing. So if you are going to be worth your salt, how do you begin to understand telling a story, making a point, giving a how to? And when you really connect with your audience and they buy into your story, you move
Mm-hmm.
to story selling, not just storytelling. So brilliant presenters to really help you think about the mechanics of if I'm presenting one to one, if I'm presenting virtually, if I'm presenting one to many, how do I like nail it every single time? And then the other offering that we have, we're launching in the next few weeks a community where I will pour into individuals on a monthly basis. It's called Brilliant You, and you will begin to learn what has taken me some 30 years. We're just going to compress it and give
Mm-hmm.
you just in time skills to help build your business. And I'll share with you why I left Disney 20 years ago to become an entrepreneur. I've reinvented 5 times in the last 20 years. And I absolutely love what I'm doing today more than the first day that I started. So for me, it's still day one.
Wow.
But I want to help cut down your learning curve. And by saying, okay, here's some things to consider. So really excited about Brilliant You.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. And of course, we want to share with our audience once that program comes out, but we're also going to share the links to the other programs that you mentioned. In addition to that, like Simon, any transformational stories that stick out to you from working with your clients?
Yes, I have one lady that 10 years ago, she had an idea to be a luxury event planner, but she was
Mm-hmm.
working for someone else. And this was probably about 6 months out. And I said, if you launch your business on a specific date, I am going to come from the United States or wherever I'm at in the world to Ireland to launch your business. Well, she launched her business 10 years ago, and today she was just recognized as one of the top 100 luxury event planners in all of Europe.
Wow.
Her face is on the magazine. She's generated over 1 million plus in revenue and has done this for many years. She has a team of 10 individuals, and she does some of the most high-end events in all of Europe, all because she took a risk on herself. And she said, it was you, the mentor, that really
Mm-hmm.
helped me. And I said, you did the work. So I
Uh-huh.
just simply challenge you to make that date with destiny, because sometimes you'll have an idea, but until you
Uh-huh.
put pen to the paper, it'll just live in your head. It'll never happen.
What was it like that you did, and not questioning your work, but just like, what did you do? Like, as far as helping her find her spark, like, what was that thing that she needed to uncover maybe? Because for someone listening, it's like, I've been in this thing for years, and how do I just make that transformation? So what was it about her that you think it was?
Yeah, the first thing I ask her is, in the current job that you had when she was working for someone else, how did
Mm-hmm.
you shine? What were you doing really, really well? And we honed in on her strengths, her weaknesses. And then I said, okay, if you were to go out on your own, what would you do differently or better that this business is not doing? What is the opportunity in the market? And she says, oh my goodness, I would personalize the experience by offering a higher end value and service that people would pay for. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and why would you do this? She said, I would do this because it would be very niche. It would be very specific. And I said, okay, go in that direction. So what happened is, instead of her like trying to attack everything, we narrowed her focus to zero in
Mm-hmm.
on, here's the one thing that I do really well. So instead of having information and ideas that are a mile wide and an inch deep, she decided to have an idea that was an inch wide but a mile deep, and really
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, this is what I can own and do.
Love that. I love that. You're just focused and going all in. I love it. And Simon, a lot of our audience members are in the first few years of business. So what advice would you give to them to, stand out in their markets, but also be a good leader and grow their businesses?
Save your money. Make sure you put away enough for taxes, because taxes are real. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure you've got a great CPA, accountant who's a tax strategist, not just a person that's going to file for you and that's it, and they'll see you next year. Number two, have a great team. Invest in someone who can be that front person for you so that they begin to sell your value and you don't have a frog in your throat when you mention your value, because people can smell desperation and people can sense that you are not sold on what you are selling. So if you can have somebody that you partner with that represents you, great. But if not, out the gate, make sure that you sell with conviction, not desperation. You sell with confidence of, here's the value that I bring, and here's why this is valuable to you. That's critically important. And then the third thing, every 90 days, self-assess. How did we get to this point? And then what are we going to do in the next 90 days? So I'm really big on 90-day sprints, because if
Mm-hmm.
there are 4 seasons in a year, 4 quarters in a year, every quarter self-evaluate. How did we get here? What did we learn? How did we grow? What do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start doing? But every 90 days, if you can work in a place of business and you have a mid-year review every 6 months, when you become an entrepreneur, you need to at least have a minimum of a 90-day review of just how you're doing. Because at some point you may say, you know what, I'm 180 days into this and this is not working. Where you can course
Mm-hmm.
correct instead of waiting to the end of the year.
Awesome. And Simon, for you, like, how do you keep the fire? Like, is there certain tools that you use, maybe self-care regimens that you have to make sure that you are thriving in your business and staying organized?
I take my meds, so let me start there.
Yes.
I also am a big movie buff, so when I can, I'll go and see a movie or I'll go play golf. I'll connect with, I have a great group of guy friends that I connect with, and those are the outlets that continue to fill my cup and feed my soul.
Know that. And finally, Simon, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Oh my goodness, to be black, beautiful, handsome,
Hey.
amazing, brilliant.
Love it.
This is the greatest time in the history
Yeah.
of our world to be a black business owner, because you are modeling something for the generations to come that
Mm-hmm.
says, not only did I break the barrier, but I decided to do something for everyone that looks like me and coming after me, that if I can do it, you can do it. So to be Black in business, in the words of my mentor, Dr. Dennis Waitley, is as you're moving ahead to help someone come from behind. That's what it means to be Black in business.
Beautiful. And again, I can't stress enough how amazing this has been. So insightful, so much value, so many 1, 2, 3 steps. I love it. People are going to want to know, how can they stay connected with you, find you, and support you? So please share.
Yes, SimonTBailey.com. T for terrific, SimonTBailey.com. That was a little dry humor. It was right there. It was right there.
I like it though. I felt it. I get it.
That's where you insert bless his little heart.
That is funny. Thank you so much, Simon, for being on the show.
Didn't I tell you it's going to be good? Love that episode. Love that conversation. So many 1, 2, 3 steps. And I want to take a moment to say that this episode, this conversation with Simon, truly made me smile, and it made me so proud to be a Black entrepreneur because, one, this is the last episode of Black History Month, and it was a reminder that we are so amazing, so excellent, and as Simon showed up, he provided so much value in just a short amount of time. People are out here doing the work. This is not a game for people. This is their life. This is their purpose that they're leaning into. And Simon was a reminder of that we have Black excellent entrepreneurs in the space, and the way that we do business is with care. So him showing up, giving his all, pouring into you, pouring into the community, is a reminder that we are excellent, we are made of magic, and we have to keep pushing. Such a great way to end for a Black History Month series. And also I want to talk about remembering that you want to make sure that, as Simon said, you're taking your meds, meditating, exercising, dieting, sleeping, and making sure that you're doing it consistently, because when you show up for yourself, you're able to show up for others. So check out how you can connect with Simon and how you can support Simon by visiting blacktobusiness.com/136. And I also want to mention a point that Simon made. You want to make sure you take his advice on remembering that leaning into and understanding women will ignite the brilliance in you. So speaking of women, next month is Women's History Month, and we have an amazing lineup of women coming on the show. We got some heavy hitters, and next week's guest is actually going to kick it off with sharing her story of how, when putting off a business idea, paid off. Remember, timing is everything, so make sure that you tune in next week to check out that episode. I love you dearly, and I am so proud of you for showing up for yourself and your business. And I want to remind you, don't you dare quit. We need you. Share this episode with a fellow Black entrepreneur, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.